secret of love is in opening up your heart. It's okay to feel afraid, but don't let it stand in your way, no. Everyone knows that love is the only rule. Since we're only here for a while, might as well show some style. Give us a smile now, isn't that a lovely ride? See me sliding down and gliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's such a lovely ride. The thing about time is that time isn't really real. It's all on your point of view. Tell me, how does it feel for you in there? Einstein said that he could never understand it all. The planet spinning through space, a smile upon your face. Welcome to the human race. Isn't that a lovely ride? See me sliding down and gliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's such a lovely ride. Well, the thing about time is that time isn't really real. It's all on your point of view. Tell me, how does it feel for you in there? Einstein said that he could never understand it all. The planet spinning through space, and upon your face. Welcome to the human race. Isn't that a lovely ride? See me sliding down and gliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's such a lovely ride. Isn't that a lovely ride? Oh, see me sliding down and gliding down. Try not to try too hard. Try not to try too hard. Try not to try too hard. It's such a lovely ride. The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. I think that was Dan's way of messing with me. He would never let me get that serious.
hating it, which makes it all the more beautiful. And really, I just want to thank you all for all the love, and he knew it, and you knew it, and that's great. I mean, not many people have that in their life, and it was good. I'm just gonna say welcome to the fucking bullshit. But it's beautiful fucking bullshit, and it's lovely, and the ride is fantastic, and let's just have a beautiful day of love and music and more love. All right, thank you so much, everyone. I love you.
Okay.
So I remember very distinctly the first time I ever met Dan. I had heard a lot about him, and the first time I met him was in the studio to record this song that I'm going to play tonight. And I remember being like equally overwhelmed and impressed at the same time. And I knew that we were just starting that record, and it was going to be a very enjoyable and special time for me. And I just, like all of you, know how amazing and wonderful Dan is as a player, but I can say I've never met anyone as talented as Dan. Anyway, this song brings back a lot of great memories for me. I could say a million more goodbyes, till I come driving south all night, just to hear you say it one more time before another million miles go by. And I'm too far away to see you smile, and I just wanna watch you for a while, so you can be here. Yeah, somewhere in the corners of my mind, I can see you standing by my side, and it's a perfect picture every time, and everything's fine when I see your smile. Tonight I saw the brightest shooting star, and I wonder if it touched down where you are. And are you lonely tossing in your sleep, or don't you miss me? Yeah, and it keeps getting harder every day, and I'll be damned if I can stay away. But I guess there's only one thing I can do, if I can be there. Yeah, somewhere in the corners of my mind, I can see you standing by my side. It's a perfect picture every time, it helps me get by. And when I see you smile, girl, it takes me right back home. And when I see you smile, I could swear I'm not alone. Now it's the only souvenir I take with me when I'm gone. Oh,
brother. Screw the in-law shit. I don't think I'm pulling off his hat, but Kim really loved the hat. She's like, so let's put it in the highest spot possible. So stand out in the crowd. Ironically, Dan and I had the same size feet and head. Not so much in between. But I just want to say a few words what Dan was to me. Again, brother, friend. From the moment I met him, he was nothing but just the purest, sweetest, most enjoyable person to be around. And he could be in any type of crowd with any kind of people, and he's going to relate. He's going to debate and relate. And, you know, he respected everyone's opinions. As long as Trump didn't get involved, he was usually pretty respectful. And he could fit in. Like, I have mutant friends that are so different from the world he lived in, but he met him. He's been part of our fantasy league for 13 years. And he just could fit in with anyone. And the biggest thing about him was his heart. And he just always wanted to help. Like, I don't think he ever said no. And I know he touched everyone in this room. And not in a Boy Scout way. But he lived. Like, he looked forward to every little thing. He enjoyed, you know, being with his friends. I think he enjoyed working. He's like, you know, I play guitar. He loved it. He loved all the people, you know, in his music community. But he had all kinds of different people in his life, and we all loved them. And if there's anything we could take away from this, it's just try to be more like Dan. You know, live in the moment, enjoy, love, and just cherish. Because I know all of us want that big Dan hug. And let's just try to carry that on. And people that we care about, just grab a hold of them while you can. I think Dan would want that, and I'm going to lose it. So I want to say, love me some Dan Moore.
Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the flowers are falling. 'Tis you, must go and I must buy. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me, and I shall hear the soft tread above me, and on my grave will Walter's spirit be, for you will beg and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. Thank you, Danny. We love you.
I don't know exactly who scheduled me after Jimmy. Really? What are you guys thinking? I said, I don't know who scheduled me after Jimmy. I mean, it was like, all right, I'm supposed to bring some levity to this afternoon. Levity? Yeah. I'm gonna do my best here. I have my box of tissues. Is this thing on? There it is. All right. I'm going to speak about my good friend Dan Warren. We were close, Dan Warren and I. So, I don't know how long it takes to come to grips with the loss of one of your closest friends, but I can tell you it's a lot longer than 6 weeks. That's true. I think everyone knows how close Dan, Doug, and I were. Whether we were on tour, grabbing a bite to eat, grabbing a drink, or hanging out in the studio. That's us hanging out in the studio. or dressed up in fancy suits for a gig that we had. The connection that we had, most people never get to experience. Oh yeah, sorry, this is too low. I asked for something to stand on. Dan had a couple of phrases that he used to say about him and I because we thought very similarly about most things. He would say, Lee and I share a brain. The problem is Dan had the creative side, he also had the really intelligent side. I'm not quite sure what part of the brain I was left with, but I was happy to be sharing it with Dan, whatever it was. He also used to say that together, he and I made two normal-sized human beings. And that's probably true, because Dan was larger than life in so many ways. Sorry, I don't have a teleprompter. For almost 30 years, we've worked on so many projects together. We've traveled the world playing live gigs, recorded in the studio. We sat on various important boards doing so-called important things, but nothing was more important than us doing it together and trying to make the music world a better place. We shared the stage many times on the Latin Grammys, both performing and even winning sometimes, whether we deserved it or not. We racked up far more losses than wins, but in the end, the awards didn't matter because it was never the reason that we made music together. We've been so fortunate to have played with Barry Gibb for 150,000 people at the Glastonbury Festival in the UK, and less fortunate to play for 3 drunk idiots at 2 a.m. in the smelliest alcohol-soaked dive bar you can imagine. That wasn't with Barry, by the way. That was way earlier. But all the while we were together, and for the most part enjoying special musical moments, but always enjoying the friendship along the way. That was actually a Julio tour photo. And speaking of, yeah, he's looking down. Julio used to say during his show that he had played from Finland to China. And Dan and I literally have played with Julio in Finland and in China, as well as hundreds of places I had never dreamed of going, let alone sharing those experiences with some of my closest friends. We have all been so lucky to make a living doing what we love to do. Yeah. And none of us ever took it for granted. Not the work, not the experiences, not the money, and certainly not each other. I wanted to share a few of Dan's favorite stories, as I start to cry, as well as a few things that perhaps some of you may not be aware of. Dan was actually the inspiration for Al from Al's Toy Barn, Toy Story 2. Most of you probably don't know that. I think it's true. It could be fake news, I'm not sure. I was with Dan when he found out Kim's water broke. 10 days early, I think it was. 10 days. That's Dan. You want to make sure I told this story. All right, so I was with Dan about 10 days early. Kim's water broke. We were in Las Vegas finishing up a run at Caesar's Palace with Julio. There she is. It was a great story and he loved to tell it. So at the time, there were no cell phones, but Dan had a special pager just in case, and he received a page from a number that he didn't recognize. So we quickly went to the production office where there was a landline. For those of you who don't know, it's plugged into the wall. He dialed the number and it was the hospital, so he figured out what was going on. He explained who he was and who he was looking for. And the next voice he heard was his sister's, which was awesome because his sister is a labor and delivery nurse. Exactly the person, yes, she's here. Exactly the person you would want to talk to in this situation. The problem was, she was hysterically crying, and he could barely understand her. I don't know what's happening, something's wrong, and they don't tell me anything, nobody's telling me anything. That's what he got from The Rock, his sister. With that calming conversation, Dan was truly freaking out and had to get back to Miami. He called Julio's office, where they connected Dan directly with Julio's plane while Julio was flying in from Los Angeles. Dan cried through his explanation of the situation in the most fatherly way possible. Julio said, "Dan, don't worry. Everything is going to be fine. Your baby is going to be fine. Your wife is going to be fine. You take I promise, everything is going to be fine. Listen, Dan. Stop crying. After tonight's show, you take a plane back to Miami. You go see your wife and your brand new baby. And tomorrow, you get back on a plane. It's a true story. Tomorrow, you get back on the plane and you come back and you play our show. Don't worry. I will pay for everything. Don't fuck me." I was standing right there. True story. We all know that Dan's guitar playing and musicianship were second to none. We don't even have to talk about that. But incredibly, he also had perfect pitch. For those of you that don't know, perfect pitch is when you know exactly the note that someone's playing, you don't even have to check it out. Which is kind of funny, because for a guy that had perfect pitch, he was truly a horrible singer. Any other singers here that he had to sing something to a line? You can vouch for this. And so I have a video to prove that, actually. Yep, this is our buddy Dan. I don't think most of you have seen this.
You gotta sing too, man. You gotta sing it though.
That's how perfect pitch will get you. So I'm sure you all have seen the letters DFW around. There's some in the lobby, and you have it on the back of your t-shirts. By the way, shameless plug, get yourself a t-shirt. It goes to a good cause. So I don't know if anyone knows what Dan's middle name is. Anyone? Lawrence, exactly. Exactly, it doesn't start with an F. So if there are any young children in the room, now might be a good time to take them for a drink of water. So very early I'm going to explain the story of how we got DFW. So very early in Dan's professional career, he was asked by his longtime friend, Dave Cabrera, to sub on a gig with Soraya. Soraya's career had recently taken off in a big way, and Dave was her musical director. And there was a gig that they had in Tampa that Dave was unable to make, and he called Dan to cover it. Dan was super excited and learned all of the music, went to the rehearsals, and diligently did whatever he could to make sure that Dave was covered to the best of his ability. Dan drove to Tampa, completed sound check, and everything seemed to be going just perfectly. They started the show, and apparently things went south almost immediately. I only know this story because Dan called me quite upset right afterwards. Whatever he had done during rehearsals and sound check, which never seemed to be an issue for Soraya, was now completely wrong. She was glaring at him on stage, telling him to stop playing, telling him to turn down, waving him off in the middle of solos. He was dumbfounded because he knew he was playing exactly the way he had played everything before. And right there, in the middle of telling me this story, he said, "Even if I wasn't playing the same shit as before, I'm Dan fucking Warner." So I'm Dan fucking Warner. And how bad could I have sounded? He actually didn't sound cocky when he said it because he was right. He was Dan fucking Warner and always sounded great. And from that point forward, somehow his initials became DFW. All right, another thing I'm not sure if everybody knows. Who's ever been in a car while Dan is driving? All right. Jason, why did I not put my glasses on? Oh my God, there we go. Well, Dan was a great driver. However, he could have a bit of a temper when other drivers with far less skill than he had caused him some discomfort. Anyone who's experienced this would chalk it up to, well, that's just how Dan is. But for those of you who have never had the pleasure, I would like to share a short video. Many of you have already seen this video, but I personally never get tired of it. This is an actual phone message that Dan left me about 10 years ago while he was driving and trying to let me know about some track that he had uploaded that I was supposed to play on. After my wife Heather heard it, she asked me if I would send it to her. Not thinking much of it, I said, sure. My wife is very creative and went to work on this masterpiece. And without further ado, I proudly present Road Rage.
Yo, so I forwarded you the link for the 44 6-inch. What the fuck, man? What the fuck are you doing? Sorry. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? What are you doing? Sorry, dude. Fucking absolutely crazy motherfucker trying to cut me out. Fucking turnpike. Oh, shoot.
You guys probably didn't hear the end, but literally at the end he says, sorry dude, I'm calm now. Alright, so I have one last story. This is one of Dan's favorite stories. I want to show a short video to set up this last story, which hopefully ties all of this rambling together, and to let all of you know exactly how Dan felt about everyone here, and those who were fortunate enough to call him a friend. So, I don't know who that girl is, but clearly that was before Autotune. I mean, I remember playing that show, I just don't know who that is. We were in Ostrava, Czech Republic, not that show, that was the only one I could find on the internet, but we were in Ostrava, Czech Republic playing a concert with Julio in front of about 6,000 or 7,000 people, and halfway through the concert, we were playing the song Fragile. And as he often did, Julio stopped us in the middle of the song, just after Dan's guitar solo, because he didn't like something Dan played. It happened a lot. Not about Dan, about anything. But he turned to Dan and said, Dan, I don't like when you play tick, 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 tick. Something along those lines. And Julio turns to the audience and says, I'm sorry, but I need to rehearse my kids. And after another grueling minute of direction, we started from the guitar solo once again, with Dan playing just as beautifully as he had before. This time, Julio was quite pleased, barking out some unintelligible sound. Those of you who toured with Julio know exactly that sound. And then we continued on with the concert. Dan handled that moment like a true pro. However, after the concert, Dan made a beeline for Julio's dressing room, which was filled with some of Julio's key people. He barged in and said, everybody, get the fuck out. Julio was sensing what was about to happen. He was going to get a tongue lashing, so he motioned to everyone to go ahead and leave the room. Always being one to say what was on his mind, Dan looked at him straight in the eye and said, I will never, ever play another solo for you again in the middle of a concert because you didn't like something I did. You embarrassed me in front of my friends, and you embarrassed me in front of the audience. Are we clear? Julio said, but Dan, I love you. Cutting him off, Dan replied, I don't need your love. I have plenty of friends who love me. I have family who love me. I get plenty of love. But Dan, you're like a son to me. No, Dan cut him off. I already have a father and a mother. I am not your son. I'm a guitar player in the band, and that's it. If you don't like something I do, you can let me know after the show. But this will never happen again. Are we clear? Julio was quite clear after that, and Dan couldn't do anything wrong in Julio's eyes for at least 6 months. I must have heard Dan tell that story 100 times, and I think he liked it because he wanted people to know that he respected himself as a person and as a player, and that he wasn't going to let anyone, even one of the biggest artists of all time, bully him. But for me, I like the line when he said, "I have plenty of friends and family who love me." Dan knew what was important to him and knew he was surrounded by people he truly cared for and who cared for him. The amazing outpouring of love since Dan's passing is something I have never seen before and may never see again. My friend was irreplaceable and made me not only a better musician, but a better human being. I like to picture him now like this, looking down at us with a little smile and a wave, but still doing what he was born to do. Going to miss you, brother. I was just relaying Dan's story. That's really, thank you, appreciate it. So that picture actually happens to be from Glastonbury, where we actually did get to play with Barry Gibb, who I would love to bring up. He's here. He would like to say a few words about God. He doesn't need an introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. You're better than me. Dan Warner. We did so many great shows together. He was a master. I wish I'd known him as intimately as Lee and Kimmy and Taylor. Not quite as intimate, but when I see all of the people here at this moment, it's a realization for me as to how many people really love Dan and how many people would come to something like this. And it's, you know, these days, it's an effort. You know, you've really got to love somebody to do this, and we all do. And we all do. Now, when I first met Dan, I was introduced to him during a session at our studio, and I didn't hear the name clearly, and I thought his name was Don. But the upside of that is that they never told me it wasn't Don. So for the next maybe 3 or 4 weeks, he was Don. You know? And they must have been killing themselves laughing because every time I spoke to him, I would address him as Don. So in the end, John Merchant said to me, you know, that's not really his name. I've been calling him Don for a month. You know? And no, it's Dan. Oh, wow. So from then on, it became Don Dan. And it's always been like that for me, or in my own head, the Gentle Giant. And that was my impression of Dan Warner, the Gentle Giant. And I've never lost that sense that that's that was a true description of him. A very spiritual man, an incredible musician, has to be the best guitarist of his kind I've ever seen or heard. Now then, you can't replace that. You can't replace that. People like that just come along once in a lifetime, and they just know everything that you ought to know, and a lot of things you'd like to know. But we had one thing in common, and that is we loved guitars. And he knew how to play one. Which was fantastic, because I really didn't. Everything I did was something I picked up along the way growing up. But Dan was a master. And so the Gentle Giant will always be in my mind and in my heart. I love him dearly, and obviously you all love him dearly too. So I salute you, Dan. You rest, and you know what? Like my brothers, he'll always be present. In everything you do, and the way you live, you will always think, what would Dan have said? Because that's how I do it, you know? And loss is a devastating thing, and especially to those people closest to you. Everyone suffers, you know, and it's a very sad thing. I salute you, Dan. Thank you all very, very much for
quick story real quick. My name's Jacob Jeffries. It's an honor to be invited to perform a song that I wrote in 2005. I just lost my grandfather and I just met Dan. I sat down to play Dan a song. He was going to be producing my record with Sebastian, and I just finished the song, and I sat down and I played it for him, and I was like, he's like, hold on a second. He's like, put it in 4. And I was like, huh? And he's like, you can do it, just put it in 4. I was like, but I wrote it in 3. And he was like, just put it in 4. And what I learned about that incident was he wouldn't have said it if he didn't believe in me or if he didn't care enough about it. He would have just let me play it and then that would have been it. But he put his thumbprint on it like he did everything else I've ever done musically, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm gonna play that song in 4.
I closed my eyes and you were gone.
just want to say thank you. I just want to say, please keep clapping for Mr. Brian Lay on the bass guitar. One last thing, I forgot to say this beforehand, but I wore this new jacket I got and this new hat just because I know that if Dan were here, I'd say, hey, what do you think? And he would say, do they make it for men?
I'm warning you now, I am not the clever one of us, of the three of us. So this is not going to be nearly as clever as Levin's, and I don't have a PowerPoint. I have some new stuff. So for those who don't know, my name is Doug Emery, and together with Lee and Dan, a lot of you called us behind our back, the Mommy Mafia. Sometimes to our face, but mostly behind our back. Which, for those who don't know, we received that moniker because the impression was that we had all these gigs and we played with Barry Gibb and we played, with Julio or whoever. And initially, I really hated that moniker because it sort of implied that somehow we did all this by some nefarious action. And like when we walked away, there were musicians strewn across either side of the street or something. I remember one time actually, I didn't see him here, and he's moved to Nashville now, but there's a guitar player who used to be in town, Aaron Fishbein, who I'm sure a lot of you know. And Dan and I had a car ride one time with Aaron to Orlando, so we had a 3-hour therapy session about this, and Aaron sort of described this scenario to us of how a lot of people thought this happened, and I'm not, unlike Lee, I'm also not good with accents, but in his best New York Italian mafioso accent, he described a scenario where there was a rehearsal taking place or a recording session taking place, and we would walk in and say, okay, all yous are just gonna step away from the instruments and no one gets hurt. And we're just gonna take over. I can assure you that's not how it went down at all. Over the years, I came to appreciate it, and that moniker, and actually take pride in it. Because one, I took pride in what we had accomplished and what we were able to do together. And to this day, I'm I was gonna pull it together. I'm incredibly proud to be associated with these guys to the level that we were associated. Dan, as is evident of everybody's, was one of the most beautiful human beings I knew, and to be able to see him every day and to work with him as often as I got to work with him, like Lee said, is not something I ever took for granted. I am so grateful that I had the opportunity that I had to be with him and to play with him and to make music with him. And what I want some of you who may not know this part of him to know is that what makes that moniker slightly inappropriate is that he was all about bringing up the people behind him. I've talked about this over the last 6 weeks a couple times. He was so encouraging and so welcoming to a younger person, a younger guitar player. I mean, I don't think he ever, guitar players out here, you tell me, I don't think he ever said no to anybody who wanted to come by the studio
and talk about gear, talk about guitar, or talk about the process. He was so welcoming and so giving and so inviting in that way. As Lee mentioned, his musicianship, it goes without saying. Obviously, you can put up the Grammy picture. A lot of you know he was obviously recognized a lot for his work, including having won Grammys. There it is with Lee and Rafa. So that goes on. Now, some of you may or may not know he also won an Emmy. So I think we have that picture as well. I saw it there. Yes. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the story of this, which was I saw Trevor around. We often will get a call from Trevor. Hey, we have somebody here and they need to record something, and we need a band really quick. Can you guys come in? And so this time it happened to be with Sarah Silverman and her writing team, and they were going to create a song and video as a present to Jimmy Kimmel. This was back when she was dating Jimmy Kimmel, and she wanted to give him a birthday gift. Keep that in mind because that will become very important. And so we were asked to come in. Now, and needless to say, it was very clear from the get-go who the top musician was in our little group. So they grabbed Dan and went into another room, and the rest of us kind of went off for a little bit and had some lunch or something, and came back, and Dan had co-written with Sarah and her team this ditty that, once again, I want to remind you, was a birthday present for Jimmy Kimmel. So you can roll the video.
Hey Jimmy, it's me. I'm in a hotel. I don't know, I've been on the road so long, I don't even know what city I'm in anymore, to be honest. Anyway, I've been thinking about you a lot. And I've been needing to tell you something. I don't know why I haven't, but it's important. I mean, we've been together for so long, over 5 years, and I still haven't told you. It's just not right. So, here it goes. I'm Matt Damon.
She's Matt Damon.
I'm Matt Damon.
She's Matt Damon.
I'm not Matt
How do you like them apples? Get it? Is it because I'm like talking about her breasts?
Yeah, it's funny. Hey Jim, don't take it bad. Remember all the good times we had. Like the time we went fishing and we caught a bunch of fish. Then you puked in the bucket of fish that we caught.
Who's that knocking at my door? I thought, who?
I'm Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
It's true, the insider has confirmed that she is in fact Matt Damon.
When I was playing Scrabble with you online, I was Matt Damon.
We flew back and forth like an idiot to do your show and Regis and Kelly's show. She was definitely Matt Damon.
When I told you I was Matt Damon, I was Matt Damon. On the bed, on the floor, on the towel, by the door, some kind, please call my publicist, Amy Zvi, at Ian's number. So take care.
You know what? Stop right there. Jimmy, we're out of time. Sorry.
You are so bad.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's put that guitar down and go Matt Damon.
A Dan Warner composition. So that is what he won the Emmy for, in case you didn't know. Just as a side note, Barry and I took our daughters to the Jonas Brothers concert. Matt Damon, when we recorded this, Matt Damon was not there, but Matt Damon was backstage at the Jonas Brothers concert. I think you remember, Barry. And so I introduced myself and I said, "Man, I played on Matt Damon." And he's like, "Dude, can you believe how big that thing got?" So anyway, it's crazy. In any case, a little bit of levity, but all this to say, I will always miss him, but I am so grateful for what we had. I will forever be grateful. I will miss him terribly. It will never be the same, but I love you, Dan Warner, and thank you.
Hi, my name's Sebastian Chris, and like many of you, Dan was a friend. He was my friend for 20 plus years. I've been thinking a lot about today and what I wanted to say, and I like the whole groove is everything thing, but my favorite quote of Dan's is, "That's life. Sometimes you're the monkey, sometimes you're the frog." And for those of you who have seen the video, you know what that's all about. And you cannot unsee that video. I thought about what I would say, and I thought about how I would share how Dan and I met during a Shakira album, and he said, and I quote, "On my SSL at home, I also keep a picture of Eddie Vedder, and as he took a closer look, he realized it was a woman who happens to be my wife. So we didn't speak for the next 6 years, but I won't bore you with that story. It's a true story. I could tell you how the next time we worked together, I made him audition by making him come to the studio with a guitar, a cable, and an amp, because I had to make him suffer about the Eddie Vedder comment. Or how he gave me a guitar that he brought to that audition as a gift about a year after that. Or how I had to break up a potential disastrous fight in Las Vegas between him and the championship boxer, Zab Judah. I'm a boxing fan, Dan is not. That would have ended very badly. Or how his voice would get incredibly high-pitched when he was angry, which generally had the opposite effect on people than fear and intimidation. It's true, he would get very angry and he would like, "You motherfucker!" Or how we would just talk and I would ask, I'd call him up and I'd be like, "Hey man, how's it going? Working on anything good?" And he would have a response to the effect of, "I'm working on the worst piece of shit song I've ever heard in my life. If I ever hear another bad copy of Despacito, I'm gonna kill somebody." Which brings me to the actual story. See, Dan was a pro. So if he was working on your music and he thought it was the biggest piece of garbage ever created, you would never know. In fact, most of us in this room had him play on things that he probably thought exactly that. And it's okay, we all have our skeletons. See, Dan would not lower his standards to meet you where you were. As he famously said, he said, "I don't write the songs, I just make them better." Dan and I worked on about 50 albums together. And I remember the day he called me to ask me if I would co-produce this 17-year-old kid named Jacob. And I regret that I never told him this, but Dan wanting to work with me as a co-producer was one of the biggest achievements of my professional career. See, Dan was so much better at his job than everyone else, except for about 3 people I know, one of them being Lee. That the fact that he, Dan Warner, thought enough of me to have him collaborate with him was incredibly validating. It was humbling, and it really gave me confidence. Now, at that point, I was already established and had had hits and awards. I was sort of at the top of my game, but ultimately that meant more. The fact that he called me. We want approval from people we respect. I really believe that I learned so much from him. We grew up together, not just in the industry, but in our lives. I'm sad. I'm going through the anger phase now. But most of all, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful that I had the privilege to call him a friend. And I'm also grateful that I had the honor to watch him play from about 2 feet away, a lot. You know, him and Soraya got along after Lee's story. And when we were working on her album, she turned to me and he was playing, and he said, she said to me, you know, there's notes on his guitar that just are not mine. And those notes will forever be in my heart. I love you, Dan.
Hello. Hi. I'm not very good at speaking these things, but that's what music is for, huh? When I was about to try to decide what song to sing tonight, I'll just do, you know, out of all the songs that I've ever written, the one that Dan complimented me, and he said, oh, that's my favorite one of your songs. And that was mainly the reason why I thought that's the one I should do then. And he also paid a big compliment to the song by saying, hey, you know, my wife Kim isn't really impressed with a lot of the stuff that I bring home, but she liked this song. So to me, that was like a big compliment. It was like a Grammy, like a Kimmy. A seal of approval. So really try to impress you. I felt proud of that. It's like, hey, I'm glad to be a part of that moment at home. And as I was just kind of rehearsing the song earlier, I realized that the song, it was in a movie. Lee, Dan and I, by the way, Lee was the guy that introduced me to Dan, and I was a big fan of Lee, and Lee, you know, you should make this guitar player for Dan. I was like, are you sure? Like, trust me. And that was 19 years ago. I've never used another guitar player in my whole career. I've never seen you know, he just became, you know, my brother and the person that could read my mind better than anybody. And so, but this song we were working on the soundtrack for a movie. I wrote this song, and it's about loss. But it's about loss in the sense that it makes you have like a wake-up call, and about life, about what you have, but also about what that person was to you. To the point where I see myself talking to Dan still when I'm doing something. It's like, what do you think? It still hasn't clicked the reality that, you know, that I can't just pick up the phone and asking his opinion on something, and a lot of the times it wasn't even about music, it was about life in general. So this song is about that. It's about loss, but it's also about, you know, just realizing, you know, what you have.
A toda marcha, a toda prisa, como escapando de algo. Así he vivido, así he corrido, ahí están las medallas. Primer lugar, este el final, pero al final no sé dónde estoy, no reconozco nada alrededor. Y queda la evidencia de que mis ojos nunca enfocaban en lo que estaba cerca, que de esta vida tan complicada, lo complicado lo traigo yo. Hoy reconozco, fuiste lo mejor. Y si es de locos escuchar aún tu voz, pues que me fichen de los locos peor. Porque aunque digan que aquí tú ya no estás, en la realidad es hasta ahora que te visto llegar. Es a tu lado que declaro nuestra historia, comienza desde hoy. Quédate un poco más, tenemos tanto tiempo que recuperar. Sé que no he dado suficiente, que no he amado con la fuerza que se debe, como no debe. Te presento un lienzo en blanco desde hoy. Te propongo hacer historia desde hoy. Y si es de locos escuchar aún tu voz, pues que me fichen de los locos peor. Porque aunque digan que aquí tú ya no estás, pues la realidad no es hasta ahora que te hizo llegar. Si no es sensato escuchar al corazón, ¿no será que este mundo habrá perdido toda razón? Pues nunca he visto todo con más realidad. Y la realidad es desde el momento pienso viajar sin equipaje, sin mucho rodeo, sin buscarle sentido, buscando todo a cada instante, sin mirar atrás, borrando memoria. Te propongo hacer historia desde hoy. Ahora que te veo llegar, ahora que te veo llegar, ahora que te vi llegar, no me digas que te vas, no. Ahora que te veo llegar,
Miss you, Dan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Claudia Brandt. For the past 10 years, I've been a good friend of Dan's, and for the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years, we became really, really close, and we would get on the phone every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, just to catch up and see when we're gonna get together again. And just probably a month and a half ago, we got on the phone and I told Dan that I was coming to Miami for an awards ceremony that's actually happening this week. And for some reason, Dan had always been a fan of my last album, and he said, "Why don't we get together and we perform?" And I was like, "Sure." And he said, "You know, Dan, I will take care of everything. I will find a cool spot. I'll get the band. I'll talk to Dan and Lee, and the more the merrier. And why don't we invite our friends?" And I said, "Of course." So I called Fonsi and I called Natalia Jimenez and I called other ones, and I said, "You know, we're gonna play with Dan, and honestly, I've written a lot of songs with him, and we've been friends forever, and I never really got to perform a full show with him, so I was so excited about it." So on Wednesday, that would probably be September 4th, or September 5th, I don't know, Wednesday noon, we spent an hour on the phone just, you know, discussing who was going to play upright bass and who was going to play percussion and who was going to come and join us, and he booked the place we were going to perform on October 23rd in 3 days at a place called Ball and Chain. I'd never been there, but he said it was great, and I said, "Okay, let's do it there." And I was, you know, all excited about it, and he was too. We were so happy, and we talked about getting together and rehearsing at his house on the 22nd and then performing. But obviously, it didn't happen. So on the evening of the 23rd, of the 4th, he hooked me up with the club owner so that we would decide who we were going to invite and who, you know, how many people and all of those things. And next thing I heard was Fonsi calling me at 6 a.m. in the morning to let me know that our dear Gordito had passed. And I haven't been able to get over it. I don't think I will ever. So when I spoke to Sebastian and Dog about maybe saying something tonight, I offered to write something for them, and for the first time in probably 25 years, I was in front of my computer and I didn't know what to write. And then I thought, well, maybe it would be a good idea to write something about that, about October 23rd. So I'm giving you all this explanation just because what I wrote is in Spanish, and for those who don't understand Spanish, I just wanted to let you know what is it about. So, honored to be here, Dan, I'll miss you forever, and this is what I wrote. It's called October 23rd. Octubre 23. Nos hablamos ese día, nos confiamos 2 secretos, nos reímos de la vida y planeamos encontrarnos en muy poco tiempo. Cuántas cosas que hacer juntos, cuántos músicos de fiesta, para octubre 23. Faltaban solo unos días, apenas. Yo me caería en tu abrazo hogar, refugio eterno, y tu sonrisa vendría a despertar mi alegría y sacudir mi silencio. Tantas ideas comunes, tanta actitud insolente, que solo en privado compartíamos, cuidándonos la espalda, siempre, con un gesto solamente. Tal vez no cabían en el mundo las rabias que te callabas y se te hicieron pesadas hasta arrancarte el aire en un maldito segundo. Y hoy me pregunto por qué hay octubre 20 y no hay octubre 23. Qué aburrido es que todos los acordes sean menores. Todo suena triste ante tu ausencia, tan presente y tan inmensa. Hoy que caminas por aquí, con tu barba de colores, yo te vi. Y hay lágrimas, y hay flores. Pues los que el honor tuvimos de llamarnos tus amigos, andamos medio perdidos, porque no sabemos bien qué hacer de nosotros sin ti. Y algunos días son mejores, y algunos días son peores, porque no tendremos tu arte un octubre 23. Qué aburrido es que todos los acordes sean menores. Muchas gracias.
I usually ad-lib stuff, but I thought today was probably better for me to put my thoughts together. My name is Jose Tillan, and I met Dan many years ago. Actually, I think it was right after college, and he was probably touring with either Ilan Chester or Julio Iglesias. I was playing a rock band, local rock band, and I think Lee Levin was the one who kind of like brought us together. And we never really played together, but we liked each other. Every time we saw each other at a party or an event, we talked, we had beer, we had a good time. In the early 2000s, during my tenure at MTV, I became a member of the National Recording Academy. And later, I became an active member of the Florida chapter board. When I did that, I made a promise to myself that I would serve in the different aspects of the board, as many as they wanted me to, until I turned out. And then after that, I would leave the board and never come back, because I thought that it was important for new blood to come into the board. And I think to this day, I've kept my promise. My memory fails me because, you know, we were kids of the 80s and 90s, and Miami was a crazy time for some of us. But I believe during my last year at the board, I was a national trustee, and I planted the seed of bringing some new blood, bringing the guys in to be part of the Florida chapter. The guys being Dan Warner, Lee Levin, and Doug Emery, and I think that eventually all of them came into the board. The Recording Academy was very important to Dan. He was an elected officer for the Florida chapter, and later a national trustee, and like Neil said, he was very, very, very active. He was very involved with the Academy, Grammying the schools, Grammys on the Hill, National Review committees, and of course poolside cocktails during trustee meetings in very posh resorts all over the United States. Dan was vocal, he was active, he cared, and he gave back. He would always tell people that were interested in joining the Recording Academy, you'll get out as much as you put in. And I think that's another sentence that I heard from Eric Schilling, probably when they were trying to recruit me to join the board as well. And he really meant that. He was respected and admired by fellow members, both locally and nationally, and not only because he was an amazing musician, but because of his great intellect as well. Dan was thoughtful, strategic, and articulate. He would see the big picture and the small details as well. He would tackle the Academy issues just like he would tackle writing a song or producing a track. Everything he did made sense. Since 2014, Dan and I worked. I kept writing Breathe. That's one of those moments. We worked very closely with the Latin Recording Academy projects. I was hired to be the executive producer of the Person of the Year events, and I brought him in on board as a musical director, music producer, and all-around music ninja. The Person of the Year galas for Joan Manuel Serrat, Roberto Carlos, and Mark Anthony were all superb events, and they were all because of Dan Warner. I kept calling him back to come and work with Premio Lo Nuestro, Premio Juventud, and the last 2 years, I called him to do the Latin Grammy Awards. He was our musical Swiss Army knife. The TV production fell in love with Dan. They had never really worked with somebody like that before at the network, and because he just made things better. It sounded better, it felt better, it just felt right. Every time we worked together, he always blew my mind. He was my teacher and my mentor. Because he was good. Creativity, his egoless personality, and grace under pressure. He was surgical, precise, in making things happen just the way they were supposed to. On Wednesday, September 4th at 11:30, I called them and I said, man, I don't know what it's going to be, but I want you on board for the Latin Grammys. It's the 20th anniversary and we need to do something great. That night I flew to Vegas to do the scout of the MGM, and my last email as the plane was taking off was to him, and I'm like, man, I have this idea, check it out and let's make it epic. Well, as life happens, he won't be on stage. On November 14th, but he will be leading the band somehow, somewhere. That night, he will remind all of us once again that groove is everything. The band, I'm sure, is going to play their ass off, and after the very last note rings out, we hope to hear his voice inside our heads, whispering one word. Nice.
To sing now after that. Good evening. I'm not good at this talking thing, so I'll just go straight to the song. The only thing I'm gonna say about the song is I recorded this song with Dan about 15 years ago. Here we go. Sorry. Real quick. Sorry. Stop. I don't want to be like Julio. I don't want to be that rude. Thank you, sir. I needed to explain a little bit before the song started. I got stuck. But I'll try not to get stuck now. Thank you. It's intense. But anyways, what I wanted to say was this song, we recorded it 15 years ago. Seth produced it, and pretty much everybody who played on the song, except maybe the strings, pretty much everybody who played is in this room today. But when it came down to kind of picking a song to do today and how to do it, we just said, you know what, let's just kind of mute everything with a lot of respect to the beautiful musicians who played on this song. Let's just mute everything and let's just do it with Dan. And that's all I want to say. So this is La Paz. Nada es para siempre, amor. Hoy nos toca compartir la misma luna. Y mañana quién sabrá si hay una separación o habrá fortuna. Nadie sabe, amor. Nadie sabe qué podrá pasar mañana. Yo quiero amarte hoy. Yo quiero abrir todas las puertas de mi alma. Te quiero hoy. Yo quiero abrir el corazón una ventana. Esto es amor y es tan grande que no cabe en mis palabras. Quiero amarte hoy, yo quiero amarte hoy, por si no hay mañana. No, yo quiero amarte hoy, yo quiero amarte hoy, por si no hay mañana. Somos como arena en mar, somos más que una ilusión, porque no hay duda. Hey. Y esta historia de los dos es tan linda como nunca hubo ninguna. Nadie sabe, amor, nadie sabe qué podrá pasar mañana. No, yo quiero amarte hoy, yo quiero abrir todas las puertas de mi alma. Te quiero hoy, yo quiero abrir el corazón una ventana. Esto es amor y es tan grande que no cabe en mis palabras. No, yo quiero amarte hoy, yo quiero amarte hoy, por si no hay mañana. No, 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 yo quiero amarte hoy, yo quiero amarte hoy, por si no hay mañana. No. Por si no hay mañana. Damn fucking wonder.
Dan always said he married me so he could have her for a mother-in-law. He's like, why can't you be better like your mom? Anyway, so how about Mom? You good?
Yeah. I really have to go to the bathroom. You know, when the program gets long and us old folks sit too long, it happens. But, you know, I have 2 sons that I gave birth to. But I had another one. Dan loved his wife, my daughter, more than any man I've ever known. He took care of her, he took care of Taylor. He didn't take care of himself. And that pisses me off. Because at 49, he had so many more years ahead of him, and I just want to tell all of you, if you have anyone in your life that you think you should be barking at about their not taking care of themselves, please feel free to do so. Obviously, I haven't done that, but I'm working on it. Mary Lee and Charlie Warner gave birth to a very, very weird, talented man. And when I mean weird, I mean it in a good way. I never knew until maybe 10 years ago how famous he was. Because he never said a word about it. He had an ego, maybe in his head, but it never came out of his mouth. It was about this big. And from what all you were saying, he should have been bigger than he was. But his body, well, let's just face it, his heart gave out because he was so full of talent and love that we all got to experience. That's a gift that you don't get very often. And I just want to say, he was my Costco concierge. I use a lot of toilet paper. Whenever I went anywhere with Dan, he kind of helped me scope out the bathrooms. But you know, I realized that, you know, when you're riding in the car with him sometimes, you'd go, oh, I don't know, I hope that guy doesn't shoot you. But there's very few things I can say about that man that you all haven't already said. But if there's any moms out there and you have a daughter, you can only pray that you get a man like Dan.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce a song that Dan apologized that it took him so long to write me a song with words, even though he didn't write words. And I want to kind of explain it. When I first heard it, it was on Valentine's Day, is what he wrote it for, which is significant in our life because that's when the condom broke and Taylor was born. Some people might think that's TMI, but at this point, you know, whatever. So he wrote the song, and I just want to explain that when we first met, I had braces, and I rocked the shit out of those braces. But whenever we would eat, I'd be like, oh, is there anything in my teeth? Is my lipstick on straight? And he would say, yeah, you're good. And then I would go in the bathroom, and I would see my lipstick over here, stuff in my braces, and I'd come back to the table and I'd say, dude, what the heck? And he would say, he started to have disclaimers. He would say, in this light, from this distance, you'll look great. So that's the premise of the song, is that he took, well then I eventually got my braces off, but it still became a thing, like, is my lipstick on straight? And it still wouldn't be. But in this light, from this distance, he took it as a metaphor for a lot of things in a tough time in our relationship, but we weren't going anywhere except that he went somewhere. And this song is just beautiful, and I just want to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoy it. There's extra tissues. And here it goes.
In this light, from this distance, your lipstick is straight, and I like to fix that. Pull you in and hope you feel the same. In this light, from this distance, things haven't been right. Love's in remission, but I'm here when it's ready to return. Hedges high with winding eyes beneath skies of blue and gray. Your smile is like a lighthouse, showing me the way. Seas are rough with jagged rocks, but I know light from this distance. I'm searching for clues to find what I'm missing. Crack the code, know the words, and hold the key that unlocks the girl. Free
looks alive from this distance. Your lipstick looks great. In fact, I can't resist it. I'm here for you, my heart is true, but I'll hold tight and wait for you. I'll stay close and hope you do the same.
Monday, October 14, 2019. Bubba.
Just a quick thing about this video is it was a very spontaneous thing. A couple weeks ago, some of Dan's close childhood friends couldn't make it today, and we're going to Colorado, to visit a friend. And one of his friends called and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm going to Colorado." I said, "Oh my goodness, do you mind taking some of Dan's magic dust and sprinkling it at Red Rocks and making a thing? Like, can you do that?" And he's like, "Absolutely." And then it was weird, and Taylor had some of it, and she put in a thing, and I'm like, "I don't want to touch it. You touch it. I don't want to touch it." And then she put in this little bag and some tissue paper, and I put it in a quilted cosmetic bag, because of course John was very serious about, "Oh, well, I can't just go on the plane with a baggie, and it has to be official." And we looked it up, and I was like, okay, so we did it. And I put him in the mailbox for him to pick up early the next morning, because Dan's favorite thing was getting the mail. And so I thought it was kind of cute that he spent the night in the mailbox. A little bit of his magic dust. It was kind of cute. It was poetic. But anyway, so this is the beautiful video that his precious friends from elementary and high school made of just a little bit of Dan's magic dust. Hit it!
Here we are, Monday, October 14, 2019. Bubba, John, and George at Red Rocks, here to inter our brother, Dan.
Chip, can I ask you, is it legal for us to inter ashes here at Red Rocks Park?
Absolutely not.
No? Okay.
Beautiful morning here, go back to the amphitheater. Not a lot of people. Couldn't ask for better weather. Here we are, stage right, row 5. Here's the view of the stage. First set of trees. Now we're going to hit just a couple more spots. Here's row 15 for reference. I'm going to pan around. Here we are at center stage, and we're about to put Dan on the stage, in the stage. Center stage.
Center stage, baby. Center stage.
Where you belong.
There is residue here, and the bag has to be thrown out. I'm thinking no better place.
This interment brought to you by New Belgium Brewing, Red Bull Energy, and Absolute Vodka. Where's the Bacardi? Where's the Bacardi?
congratulating. There you go, girl. Right here in the middle. There you go.
Can we move it back? Here, you move those back.
Uh-oh. Hey, Dan.
Those of us that have felt the way that Dan has made us felt, as small as possible, in the best ways, and as big as possible, but always with humility and always with the passion to give back. And one of those individuals was a really talented guitar player, and I showed Dan a video, and about 3 weeks later, Taylor Guitar ended up on the doorstep of our organization in this game. And it's an unbelievable privilege to know that over $10,000 has been raised. As a result of what this logo represents, it is a true reflection of not only how much we care about Dan, but how much we care about the entire lives as a result of the support you all give. So I just want to let you know that this is something that will last forever as a result of this.
Thanks, Carlos.